keeping in mind today's session, which is going to be focused on B2B social media, I'll start off by giving a scenario of what is the B2B online marketing sphere or universe in globally. So there's this company called eMarketer, which runs a lot of surveys in the US and globally. They have pegged the universe of B2B marketing online to be at 8 billion, which is fantastic. It's been growing at a 23% compound annual growth rate year on year for the past 5 years. But the most telling statistic amongst all of this is the fact that the B2B online marketing spend has been growing in excess of 25% as compared to the total online marketing spend. What this tells me is that B2B marketers, as Kavita just mentioned a moment ago, are more and more interested in figuring out how can they leverage social media or online as a space for B2B marketing. There's one more very interesting statistic in this, and I would like to spend a minute out here. So 60% of B2B marketers, or 6 out of 10 B2B marketers, plan to increase their spends on social media in 2011. This is again from the eMarketer report. Why this is interesting is, so the way the question was framed, people were asked, which of these following online channels would you increase your spends on in 2011? And number 3 was social media, which is fantastic because number 1 was their website itself. So a lot of marketers, B2B marketers, feel that there's a need to invest money in the website. Number 2 was email marketing. And just to add to it, email marketing is not just from an acquisition point of view, but it's also for building loyalty programs and CRM programs as well. And number 3 was social media, which is way, way ahead of search engine marketing, display advertising, and similar other channels which historically have been right up in the value chain. So this is a dilemma for everyone. I put the customer's face out here, but this is your prospect customer who, at every day, and this is true for all of us in the room, people want to take decisions. They want to take it fast. They want to be right. Now, here is a paradox which has existed for centuries, right? You want to do it fast because you're aware that your competitors are doing something in the space. You want to go past them. At the same time, you don't want to waste too much time in getting a decision right, but you want to get your decision right as well. So, keeping that in mind, what we've done is we've said, let's take, for social media, let's look at the pillars that make a successful B2B social marketing campaign. So the first pillar, and I can't reiterate more about this, is context. And context will always be the king for any social media marketing campaign, whether it's a B2C or a B2B campaign. So what have I put up here? So on your left-hand side, there is me standing in an entertainment park with a robot who's wearing boxing gloves. Don't ask me how he's come from. But so here I am with my family, with my friends. And think about this way. So the way I'm going to draft this whole conversation is I'm thinking of a situation where I have to hire a search engine marketing agency. I'm standing here clicking a photograph with this robot out here. A guy from a search engine marketing agency comes up to me and says, "Hey, Sandeep, I heard you're looking for a search engine marketing agency." And I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a pair of shorts out here where like, I'm not even in a mood to think about it. This is me on a social network where I'm interacting with my family, interacting with my long-lost friends, interacting with a lot of people that I keep in touch personally. I don't want this space to be interrupted or intruded by anything professionally. That's the last thing that I have in mind at that point in time. Contrary to that, on the other side, I'm keeping my door open. Because here, I'm at work. I'm thinking, how can I make myself more successful and productive? More importantly, how can I make my company as well more successful and productive? Here, if that same person who's pitching an SEM agency to me comes to me, my door is always open. There's a very interesting anecdote that I picked it up, and it's true not just in the online space, it goes way, way beyond. So there's this, all of us get calls from telemarketing agencies, right? I mean, those are really, really irritating. And I'm sorry if there are telemarketers in the house, but so a friend of mine does a very, very interesting thing. Whenever he gets a call from a telemarketer agency pitching, say, insurance or home loans or some telecom services, he'll listen to the guy. He'll entertain that guy for 2 minutes, speak to him. At the end of 2 minutes, he'll hold him in the middle of his conversation and say, "Hey, hold on. I have a meeting to attend. Let me do this. Give me your cell number. I'll call you in the evening, and let's discuss then." What do you think the telemarketer's response would be? Of course, no, right? Because even he agrees to the fact that in the day, he may make 50 calls, but that's his professional environment. In the evening, it's his personal space. He would not give you his mobile number. Now, one more thing. So context is something like I mentioned. How do we, in any successful B2B marketing campaign, B2B social marketing campaign, context is really important. So it's important for you to separate, is it something that I'm interrupting a personal space, or is it something which is professional? In a B2B space, it's always going to be professional. Now, this is another interesting point that I would want to add in additional to context. There is an information overload out there. There are thousands of hours of videos every day, millions of tweets, millions of content shares. On LinkedIn, we add one member every passing second. Now, imagine as a customer, and I go back to that slide where I have this customer holding his head in dilemma and saying, I want to take a decision fast and I want to take it right. If there is so much of content out there, his task is virtually impossible to make those decisions really quick. How are we as social marketers helping him to take that decision quick, at the same time keeping the aspect of being right? So, like Michelle Kapoor once said, getting information off the internet is like drinking from a fire hydrant, which is really true. I mean, today if I'm on a social network or if I'm on Twitter or I'm LinkedIn, there's a lot of information out there, right? I mean, how do we like get the relevant pieces of information and make it useful from my point of view? So the first pillar that I spoke about is context. And this is the second pillar, which is relevance of information. Now, I don't know, some of you guys would have received this email from LinkedIn, but I would want to spend a couple of minutes on this. So if you view this, I got this email from LinkedIn which said, Sandeep, 2010 was a year of change. 414 of your connections found new career opportunities. Now, this is a classic example of being relevant. If I had got an email which told me 10 million people changed jobs in 2010, I would be like, wow, that's great, good to know, but is it relevant for me? From my point of view, I don't know 10 million people to begin with, right? But when it's made relevant, there are three things that I learn here. One, it tells me 414 people changed jobs. I get this email, open it, it shows me nicely displays pictures of people who have changed jobs. So most of these people I know, but it's impossible for me to keep a track of them on a daily basis. But here I look at this guy and I'm like, oh, Siddharth has changed a job. That's interesting. Let me go and check what's happening with him. So on and so forth. So I've figured out two things. So one is the fact that it's been relevant. It's been customized for me. So I don't have to make the effort of figuring out who has done what. More importantly, it also gives me an insight that 414 people have shifted jobs, which, well, the funny part is it seems like it's a job hopping network that I have, but it also gives me a very powerful insight that maybe 2010 has been the year of jobs. Probably the same emailer in 2008 would have been 1/4 the number, because not many people are finding jobs at that point in time. So this is the power of being relevant. And the third most important thing which this emailer has done, it's helped me engage with it. It's not just telling me 10 million has changed their jobs, it's actually making me spend more time to identify who has changed a job, what have they done, so on and so forth. So the foundation for any social media marketing, be it B2B or B2C, I can reiterate it for 100 times, is context and relevance. Identify the context where your consumer is open to your communication, make the communication, make your plan relevant to him. So this is my professional graph on LinkedIn. This is an actual graph. It's really the graph that I'm linked to. So if you look on top, there are people from my ex-company. There are people from the internet domain. The color green on the right has people from LinkedIn that I'm connected to. The color on the left is colleges and other past companies that I've worked in. Now, I'll go back to that same example where I say I want to hire a search engine marketing agency. Now, what would my next steps be? I mean, it's classic example for anybody who's looking for a service, right? My first thing I would do is check with my professional colleagues, check with people that I trust, check with people that I've worked with in the past, people that I respect. That's what I did. I asked two of my colleagues. One is Nitin, who's a senior marketing director at Yahoo, and one is Prapti, who I've known as well. And both of them told me that XYZ is the best search engine marketing agency. Now, brilliant. I've got the right answer, going back to the customer dilemma, but I've spent a lot of time on this. I would have reached out to probably 7, 8 people, 2 of whom responded. Both gave me the same answer. I found out, okay, XYZ is the best agency. I could have done it faster. I wasted probably 10 days, my effort, my time in identifying, okay, which is the best search engine marketing agency to go for. Now, this brings me to the next point, which is recommendations is the most trusted form of advertising. We've known this, we've heard this, now we have research to prove it as well. So Nielsen did a survey in April 2009 where they put down all possible channels of advertising. This includes television, this includes newspapers, magazines, radio, email, mobile, the works. But the number one source of trusted advertising is recommendations. And let me point one more point. It's not just recommendations, it's recommendations from known people. And which is a classic case in my previous slide where I said, I asked people that I've worked with for a recommendation for a best search engine marketing agency. And that is the number one reason, or the number one reason to believe in advertising. So context and relevance, like I mentioned, is the pillar of any social media marketing campaign. What we thought at LinkedIn is, okay, this is the Bible, right? Context and relevance is the Bible for us. This is what we will continue doing. How can we make it a little more interesting for both the service providers as well as the customers here? What we did is we added a layer on top, the umbrella of recommendations, because like I'd mentioned in my previous slide, there is the most trusted form of advertising. We took this, we went back to the drawing board and said, let's come out with a product which merges context, relevance, as well as a layer of trust, which helps a business service provider reach its customer faster, which helps the customer reach a service provider faster and make faster decisions. Given that, we launched this product, which is LinkedIn Company Pages. And LinkedIn Company Pages just does that. Let me give an example. So LinkedIn Company Pages launched last month. One of the chartered partners that we launched LinkedIn Company Pages was Volkswagen in India. This is a B2C example. I have a B2B example also, which comes just after this. So Volkswagen came to us and said, we went to Volkswagen rather, and we told them, we're coming up with this fantastic product. And Volkswagen was really excited because one of the insights that they believed is a lot of professionals discuss purchase decisions for cars, for house loans in office itself. And it makes sense, right? I mean, when we're working in an office scenario, we work with like-minded individuals, also people who earn as much as we do. So it becomes easier to understand from them their pain points when they invest in something like a car and so on and so forth. So we said, okay, now we have this product which will bring you context, which is the professional context where people discuss about cars. Now we added on top of it a layer of relevance. So what happens here is, whenever a person logs on to www.linkedin.com/company/Volkswagen India, basis their LinkedIn profile, they would see a different car. So the URL remains the same. It's made more relevant for me. So for example, when Srividya, who goes there and is a marketing manager, Volkswagen has this insight that women are more likely to purchase a Beetle. And so whenever she logs in there, she would see a Beetle. Versus when Nitin, who's a senior director at Yahoo, would log into the same page, he would see a Jetta, because Volkswagen feels at that level, I would buy a Jetta. Similarly, a marketing manager from another company, when he logs in, he would see a Polo. So what this has done is, first, going back, taken the context in place. People are discussing large purchase decisions at their workplace. So we've identified a professional network. Point number two, we want to make it relevant. We want to save time for the customer. So imagine if the customer had to go, the same three guys had to go to some other place. They would have to go through many drop-downs, many images to identify which car, where, compare, so on and so forth. Here we've done the job for them. It's coming up front. It's shown to them up front. But now there's a third aspect as well, right? Besides context and relevance, how do we make it trustworthy? How do we get these guys to then purchase your service or purchase your car? We added something called recommendations. So what this does is, and this is how the relevance is, and here is also we have a mix of relevance out here as well. So what this does is, when I go and check a particular product, it shows me a Jetta, I click on it, it takes me to the Jetta page, which gives me information about the Jetta, the car, so on and so forth. Also shows me people in my network who have recommended a Jetta. What has this done for me? It's made my purchase decision that much more easy. I know the right people. Okay, if I trust, say, the first 3 people out of this, I'll go and check with them, and I'll read the recommendation. I say, okay, if these guys are saying Jetta is a brilliant car, I will go and purchase it. And to complete this sales cycle, this product also has a small box which has employees from Volkswagen there where I can contact directly and tell them I'm interested in a Jetta. They could reach out to me and complete the sales cycle. Now, imagine this very same thing in all of your businesses. If all of your businesses would have a company page where you all identify, let's take the example of the search marketing agency itself. So if there is an agency which provides multiple services, including search engine marketing, social media marketing, so on and so forth, somehow it gets the insight that marketing guys from publishers would be more interested in search engine marketing. So whenever I log in there, instead of showing me its list of services, it will just show me a case study on search engine marketing. The moment I click on that, it takes me to this page, and here I have recommendations from the same Nitin and the same Prapti earlier, who said that XYZ is the best search engine marketing for you. This is another B2B example that, that I picked up. So there is this gentleman, I don't know if he's in the room right now, but he's presenting today at 4:30. There's this company called Digital Vidya, which is a small company, but doing some fantastic work. They're going around India and are educating corporates as well as end consumers on various internet aspects. So for example, they run social marketing boot camps, they run LinkedIn boot camps, they run Twitter boot camps, and so on and so forth. Educating the corporates and customers on how they can use it for their business or for the general purposes. So they had created this company page, and the beauty of the company page is the quality of recommendations. Now, I went to the recommendations and I read it. So you have 3 people, I mean there are like some 30-odd recommendations, but these are three that I pulled out. This guy, and all 3 are 3 different industries. All 3 have given them a big thumbs up for the quality of work that they've seen out there. Now what this has done is, and I was just telling Pradeep, who has a session at 4:30 today, a connection in my network saw this, reached out to me because I was connected to Pradeep, and told me, hey, I just saw about this Digital Vidya and I saw Pradeep connected to you. How is this service? What is it all about? That's a lead out there. And the beauty, and I didn't mention this earlier, but the beauty is all of this is completely free. So any service can go and just set it up, set a company page of theirs right now in like 15 minutes. So the beauty here is your recommendations actually help you bring new customers because it's all connected in a viral network. The way people realize about recommendations is when I go and I recommend a particular service or product, every person in my network gets an update saying that Sandeep has recommended XYZ product and service. Now, in a search engine marketing agency, for example, if I recommend a particular search engine marketing agency and I'm connected to say 100-odd marketers in my network, they would at one glance know that, okay, Sandeep recommends here. And the thing is, recommendation is something which is really, really strong. It is not a passing fad. It's something where I stake my professional claim behind my profile and say, I recommend this product and services, and it stays there forever. So in that sense, what we've done is, for us at LinkedIn, users is number 1. Users is paramount for us. So we've empowered the user not only to recommend other people, because as you know, recommendations is part of the LinkedIn DNA where we recommend other people, right? We've taken it a step further and said, hang on, you can recommend other people. Now you can also recommend products and services. Help people in a network to be more productive and successful. So that's how we've made this combination of context, relevance, put the layer of trust on top of it, came up with company pages. So what do you have at the end of it? You have, if you go back to the old, the first slide that I had was this customer holding his head in dilemma. You got a satisfied customer because he knows now, okay, which is the best agency or the best service that I should opt for, and a satisfied service provider. And more importantly, a really short sales cycle. I mean, everybody in this room wants to reduce the size of the sales cycle. And the best way to do it is if you make the information upfront relevant to the customer so that he doesn't invest a lot of time, he gets his information really quickly, you reduce your sales cycle, everybody's profitable, everybody's happy. Now, I would want to touch upon another very, very interesting part, very interesting hidden power of social media, which is professional insights. Now, we talked about company pages, we talked about service providers who make company pages, talk about their services. Now, how do I identify whether if a marketing guy or a purchase guy or whoever guy is coming to my page, what is that service that I should be showing up to him? Now, I can use hypothesis and say, okay, if an online marketing guy is coming there, maybe he's interested in social media optimization, maybe he's interested in search engine marketing. But why not do it the right way? Why not use the power of the network to drive insights for you guys so that you can then identify and nail down what are the 3 things that you want to focus on? So one of our products that we have is LinkedIn Polls. Again, a free product. The way the product is structured, and this is a very classic example that I can give you. So this is an example I pulled out last week where I saw this guy who's the founder of iMedia Ventures, who does a lot of work in the digital content space, ran a poll with his network and asked them what type of marketing will see the largest percentage increase in 2011. Now, look at the insights. Number one is social media, number two is mobile. So I would think about it this way. Okay, social media. Now 137 people have said social media. At the back end, he can figure out which industries do these guys come from. So for example, out of 137 people, 70 of them come from the banking and financial industry. It's an insight for him. He immediately can tell his sales team, guys, I think there's a lot of demand which could happen from the banking and financial industry. Maybe these are the guys that you should go and pitch your business to. At the same time, it's not just about the sales decisions which are made out here. It's the hiring decisions as well. So for example, if I have 137 people saying social media is the next big thing for them, I'll look at my team and say, okay, am I equipped enough in terms of handling the demand for social media, or do I need to hire more people out there? So in one shot, with a simple poll, which probably ran for 3 days and is, as I said again, completely free, you get insights to run not just your sales, but also your business. This is another way of garnering insights is LinkedIn groups. So the power of social media, as we look at it, is discussions are happening every day. Discussions are happening about your brand. Discussions are happening about your domain, your industry, your service, expertise all the time. Two options. You can either choose to ignore it, move on with your life, or option number two, which is, in my opinion, the most important, have a seat at the table. While these discussions are happening, you can be part of these groups and understand what are things that people are discussing about in my domain. Are there some insights that I can use and provide to my sales and marketing teams for these? For example, this particular group that I put up here is this group of Future of Digital for Brands, which is run and curated by Ashok Lala. Ashok Lala is the president of Euro RSCG. He just started this group, I think, a few months ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's a fantastic group. There are so many good discussions happening here, both between marketers in India, internationally. There are close to like 1,000 people on this group. And it's like a plethora of insights. Every time I go there, I learn something new. These are qualitative feedbacks that I'll take from here and say, okay, this is an emerging trend which comes, which I can probably share with my sales team or my marketing team and continue to tell them, let's focus on these trends because these are trends that look emerging at this point in time. So just to iterate again, I would say, take a seat at the table. Learn what's happening at these groups because these are really going to help a business. And yeah, I think that's it for me. I'm done with my session. If you guys have any questions or answers, please. And yeah, before the last question, I'm not looking for a search marketing agency. Yeah, please.
Just want to know, people today are thinking of using social media for reputation management also.
Right.
What is the scope of a channel like LinkedIn in that?
So it is, I would say reputation management, it depends on which brand and industry. So for example, if it's looking at reputation management for professionals, and depending on which company or which brand you're looking for, there's a lot of scope there. Because I know of a few companies actually who do reputation management extensively on all social platforms, including LinkedIn as well. So there is a lot of scope. The only thing is to identify whether your target audience is out there. Like I said, the context part is really important. So if you are doing reputation management for any B2B kind of environment, I think it's a bang-on fit for something like that. Sure. Yeah.
What about fake reputations?
What about, sorry?
Fake reputations. Now,
Fake reputations, for example?
these platforms to actually build their fake reputations. I mean, they give recommendations to people and...
Right. So the thing is, the way the network is structured, right? I mean, like I said earlier, the user for us is paramount. Whenever there is any instance of a fake profile being there, you can actually tag that profile as fake. You can report that profile as a fake profile and get it shut. And that's the advantage of a network, right? I mean, if you know that there is a fake profile out there, it becomes easier for that.
It's fake reputation management. I mean,
okay.
There are genuine profiles.
It's a genuine profile.
It's a genuine, both of our profiles are genuine.
Okay.
Now, I give a recommendation which is fake. I ask him, what kind of recommendation do you want? And I write that out.
Right, but that is, sorry, yeah.
Products, this is being used even by companies like Airtel, Reliance to promote their products.
Right.
I mean, we have done it, so we know that.
No, sure. So the thing, so the thing is that I think that's something that's really, really hard to stop. It's an open platform, right? I mean, everybody has access. It's not a one-way, unidirectional communication platform like a portal where I say, okay, that's the communication which comes in there. It is user-generated content. The way it would work is if I were doing something which is fake reputation management, I'm actually putting my company on stake.
But this is a tremendous impact on business. I mean, I can give you a live example.
Sure.
There's a hotel called Hotel Metropolitan Nico in Delhi. I mean, they did 10 fake reviews of their hotel, and their business jumped at least, I think, 50%.
That's what I'm saying. But if somebody had to know about that, they're doing that. Imagine the reputation. Then they would have to manage later. I mean, if it comes in now.
This room of 50 now knows that.
this room of 50 now knows that. So there's some press guy out here, and but I'm sure it's happening now as well, right? But
it's happening even more than the actual reputation management. That's what I wanted to tell you.
No, that's true. But like I said, in an open platform, it's really impossible to curate all these things, right? I mean,
LinkedIn, if desires, can control that.
I would love to know how it can do that. But it's 8 million users in India we're talking about.
You send a context-sensitive mail to people when you find a spamming thing. Just tell us.
No, so that we do. That's what I'm saying. So, for example, if I realize that a particular profile is doing something which is in a spam context, right? If, for example, we have these filters in place where if a profile does a lot of invitations and nobody is accepting it, it gets blocked then and there. So it requires the users. I mean, like I said, it's an open environment. There are all users out here. It requires the users to then point out these things and say, okay, I think this guy is spamming. And we are really, really sensitive about things like privacy and spamming. And if that happens, then of course, yeah, we do take care of that. Sure.
Consumers utilize social media on LinkedIn versus Facebook. So you have company pages, they have fan pages, you have recommendations, they have likes, but the intent for the user on Facebook is a little different than being on LinkedIn. And how is the utilization? What are your viewpoints in comparison?
So it's a fair question. So the thing, like I would say earlier, it boils down to the context, right? I mean, that's the starting point for everything. If I realize that my consumers are on a professional network and the context is right, that's my place to go. Versus if I realize that my context is better off in a social network, that's the place I would take. Now with company pages, for example, the way it's structured is, what we've done is, so there are likes on LinkedIn as well, right, where you can like an update and so on and so forth. A recommendation is something really strong. So what I'm saying is I'm staking my professional reputation and I'm recommending a service or a product. Whereas on LinkedIn, when I share an update, where I share something, somebody can like that update as well. Recommendation is a really, really strong thing to do, where we realize that when you're recommending a product, you're putting all your might behind it as well. So it goes back to the first two pillars where I spoke about, which is context and relevance for any social media campaign. And if the context is right, the audience is there, I would say that's the place to go. So for example, if there is a product which caters to housewives or kids, I don't think it will be as successful on LinkedIn, to be really honest, because you got working professionals out here, vis-a-vis on another social network where it would definitely be more relevant.
I have a question for you, Sandeep. Give us 2 examples of what LinkedIn would do for its own reputation management.
LinkedIn would do for its own reputation management. I think we have a very strong reputation management on its own. So, but you mean on the LinkedIn platform in itself?
No, there have been instances where we've heard from certain digital marketers that when we are trying to create a marketing mix for them, and we definitely recommend using LinkedIn and of course Facebook to a certain extent, etc., they come back to us with a lot of reports that say that LinkedIn ads may not work. Or are for a specific type of clients only. So for advertisers that have faced something like that in the past, where they've been a little skeptical or doubtful about using the social media advertising channels now available, what would your response to that be? Like, what is the category that it really works for?
So I think, like I said earlier, it's a context, right? I mean, if you have working professionals as part of your target audience, that's where I would say this is bang on for you. Now, for things like that, right, I mean, it all goes on. It's a longer discussion in my opinion. I would love to take it offline. But one of the things that I would want to iterate is the metrics for social media is not the same for a portal or a search engine. It's not dependent on the number of clicks that you get or the number of impressions and so on and so forth. There are more softer metrics that come into play. Like, for example, in the case of company pages, it's a number of your consumers following your company. I'll give you a classic example. So if I have a product or a service, and I'm a customer, for example, and there are 10 services that I want to choose from. All of them provide me the same service. I go to each of their website, read up their services out there. The only option where I get more updates from them is by me having to subscribe for a newsletter for each of these services, which means I'm open to spam. On the other hand, when I take a company page, for example, all I need to know, go to the company page and follow that company. I don't get spammed from them. I get all that information in my inbox. Now, for me, that's a really, really strong metric to go by, right? Because we all know that in all of our respective businesses, it's easy to get a customer on the site for the first time, but to keep him engaged, keep him retained for a long period of time, there's a larger investment. So for something like that, so these are the different metrics that I would say would need to work. And again, it depends on the kind of category that you're talking about. So Yeah.
Thanks, Sandeep. We are still open for questions.
Sandeep, is a question on your privacy policy that you have. We run a partner network where we have fairly a large MNC. I don't want to mention the company's name. We have thousands of partners in the country. We try to bring them all together outside the company's portal, outside of our company's portal. So we run a partner network in LinkedIn.
Okay.
Now, let's say there's a company called XYZ, and we see there is about 50 employees there, and we want to invite them to the group. We have, let's say, we are called ABC Limited, and we have a group called the ABC Partners in India.
Okay.
And we have a particular partner, he's got 50 employees there.
Okay.
We want to invite them all to the group.
Okay.
Now, the challenge we face is when we do that, one, he should be our connection for us to invite them to the group.
Yep.
So when we go try to make connection with them, we have a limitation. LinkedIn doesn't allow us to go beyond a point.
Yep.
While the intention is not to spam, the intention is to invite them. What's the best way to do it?
So I would say this way. So the way the privacy policies are created for LinkedIn, the way it defines a spam is if a guy has made a lot of invitations and those inviters or the people that he's invited have not accepted it, LinkedIn would treat it as spam. So in that case, if I don't know who's handling this at this point in time, but if they've done a lot of invitations and a percentage of that have not accepted or has called it as spam or has ignored it, LinkedIn would realize that this person is probably spamming a lot of people because user privacy for us is paramount. So that's how we categorize it.
If we pull back invites, suppose we have invited 50 people and say 10 people have not invited, and we pull back 10 invites. Does that count, or you have a historical track of it and you keep track of it?
So there's no way of pulling back. Once it's invited, it's invited. Once it's reached that inviter's inbox, it's done. So there's no way to pull it back per se. Yeah.
Sandeep, a couple of more questions. I think we have a lot of questions here.
Hi, Sandeep.
Sure.
The question goes this way, that social media was embraced more by people to make their personal faces on these sites, so to speak. Now what's happening is they have already created their groups with respect to the companies they were working with respect to the technologies they were working on. Now, when corporates are looking at these medias to make their faces on the digital world, we are facing challenges because we want to create the groups, but the names are already utilized by those employees who were working with us earlier or who were working in certain technologies. Now, how do we overcome this challenge?
So it's a good question. So I'll just reiterate it for all you guys here. So she's talking about a company that she's working in. She wants to create a group for that company, but there's been a group created earlier by ex-employees, if I'm not mistaken. So in that situations, what we do is, the best way, so we've had situations like that earlier, where you can just write into our customer service, and then they'll take care of that. So what they do is they do kind of a validation on their end to figure out whether this person has really left the company or not, because that could also be spam, right? I mean, you could take a vested interest on someone else. So to avoid that, we do a background check to figure out if the person has actually left, and then we could hand over responsibilities to the new company.
Hi, I'm Mona Srivastava from the Harvard Business School, and I'm curious to know, are your LinkedIn users in India different? Do they use LinkedIn differently than your users, say, in a developed economy like the United States?
I don't really think so. I think like the focus for everyone, I mean, the way the product is structured is to make them successful and productive, right? So we haven't seen a large difference between the two. And the reason why I say that is, right now there's a lot of interconnectivity. It's not the Indian users who are connected only to the Indian users. They're connected to the people in the West as well, and they're adapting things that they are doing there as well. So I've seen a lot of companies, for example, where they talk about adapting what their counterparts in the US are doing. And it's similarly trickled down to users as well, where they kind of where they have a similar usage pattern across all geographies per se.
Yeah? I think we'll have to bring this in. Just one, yeah, right. Can we have one mic going there, please? Give us a second.
I'm Ratnesh, and I'm a marketing manager with Wipro Technologies.
Sure.
You mentioned that discussion groups are a very good example of getting a seat. But
at a table, yeah.
Realistically speaking, going to those discussion groups, they are nothing but spam these days. So out of 1,000 posts, 5 may be of relevance. And that's what Michelle said, Michelle Cooper, who says it's drinking light or out
the
of
hydrant, fire
hydrant.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with discussion groups on LinkedIn. So what are the steps you're taking to reduce that kind of storm where self-promotion of white paper or some services and make it a neutral discussion forum?
So I think it largely depends on the moderator, honestly, because like I said earlier to this gentleman's point as well, where he talked about people doing a fake reputation management. If the moderator, and I was mentioning about Ashok Lalla some time back, where he has this group on Future for Digital Brands. Similarly, an ex-Wipro employee, actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, who was to be the earlier CMO of Wipro, Jessie Paul. She has a CMO roundtable group. I don't know if you're part of that group, but the conversations there are really, really, truly world-class conversations that happen out there. So I think a lot of that depends on how the moderator has identified his group, because the moderator has the access of even blocking people and saying, okay, this guy is creating a lot of spam, I can block it. So in a user-generated content scenario, it is all to the users. I mean, a platform can do only so much by providing this. If somebody says this person is spam, or this profile is spam, or this guy is spamming a lot of people, as a platform, we have the tools in place to probably block that person. But it all depends on the moderator, on how he moderates, how he curates his group.
Thank you very much, Sandeep.
Thanks so much.
We've had a wonderful session. I think we deserve a big hand. And
Thanks so much.
I think a lot of us are LinkedIn users. So thank you once again. And
yeah, thanks a lot.
So
Thanks a
much.
lot, guys. Thanks for your time. Cheers.